A few weeks ago, I was able to help out Anne-Marie at youth group, being that second adult and helping lead some of the conversations for that night with our wonderful, terrific teenagers. And the lesson for that night was, who are you? Who are you? I think that is such a wonderful question for us to sit with. Who are you? What is the first thing that comes to your mind? Is it your name? Because names are really, really important. Or is it, I am a sister, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter? Is it part of that place of who you are in your family systems? Is it things that you love? You know, I'm a sloth lover. I am an animal lover. I love to be outdoors in nature. I love to go for walks. Does it include some of your passions? Or is it something deeper within you? You know, I'm an introvert. I like quiet. I like some space for myself. Who are you? What makes you uniquely you? Well, this next sermon series that we are diving into is who we are as a people of Christ. It's important for us to know who we are individually and who we are as a community of believers, as we are thinking about being the people of Christ, the people of the risen Lord in our world around us. What does that mean for us? What does that mean for us to be able to work together? What is our goal, our mission? Who does that make us in the world? I've been sitting with this question for the last few weeks, ever since Anne-Marie introduced that to the youth. Who am I? And then who are we? Well, Pastor Laura started us off on a wonderful note on Sunday. And if you weren't able to watch Sunday's service, I would invite you to go and to watch her words that really set the table for us as we think about being a people of communion. And we know that that word communion comes from another word that we use often, community. So the people of unity, the people of coming together, of a common purpose, a common goal. And we talked a lot about what that looks like for us. So make sure to go and to watch that service, to hear her words that were really rich and will help us begin this conversation as we are thinking about who we are. Pastor Laura shared that Jesus knew. He knew that the disciples would need that moment at the table, a place that would ground them because he knew what was to come. The trauma, the tragedy, the division, the questions and doubts and discomfort and grief that the disciples were going to feel. And so he knew that those disciples needed a grounding place, a place around the table to be able to remember, to come around and to remember again who they were, their purpose, who they were, loved by God, who they were, no matter what they had done. And Jesus invited all of those disciples to come around the table. He knew that the betrayer was there at the table and he welcomed him in. He knew that there were those at the table who would deny him, who would scatter at the first sign of any trouble. And Jesus welcomed them in just as they were because he saw them as friends. He saw them as loved by God. And so that gives me hope. It gives me hope that when we come to the table, that we are all coming with whatever we have done, whoever we are, all of our brokenness, all of our messiness, all of our problems, but also all of that hope in who we could become. And we come to that table of unity that brings us together in all of our messiness, in all of our disagreements, but we have one common purpose, communion. So a couple weeks ago in Spark, I shared some thoughts about communion. In the Gospel of Luke, we hear these words about how Jesus took the bread and gave thanks and broke it. So in that original language, in that Greek language, he gave thanks in Greek is the Greek word Eucharisteo, which means thanksgiving or to be thankful. And that root word of Eucharisteo is charis. It means grace. So Jesus took the bread and he saw it as grace, as a gift, and he gave thanks. He took the bread and he knew that it was a gift from God, and he, Eucharisteo, he gave thanks. Eucharisteo, thanksgiving, it envelops this Greek word for grace, which is charis. But it also holds this derivative, the Greek word of chara. It means joy. So charis is grace. Eucharisteo, thanksgiving. Chara is joy. Deep chara is found only at the table of the Eucharisteo, the table of thanksgiving. So a lot of times when I come to this table, you know, there is a full piece of bread. And I come to this table feeling like I need to be whole. I need to be full. But a lot of times I come to this table of God's gift, God's grace, and I feel like I'm in pieces. I feel like I'm broken. I don't feel like I'm whole. I feel like there's chunks that are taken out of me, pieces that have been left somewhere else. I feel broken and a mess, and I don't always feel like I can come because I'm not that fullness that maybe I want to present myself to God. It's the same way I come to take the cup and I feel empty. I don't feel like there's anything in me to be able to then go out and give to others. And so I come broken and empty to the table. And I know that the disciples in the days after Jesus' death felt broken and empty. And yet they came to the table. They came back to that table to remember that gift of bread and that gift of the cup. And they remembered the joy, that deep chara that they felt deep within inside of themselves. And they were able to Eucharisteo, to give thanks. Because Jesus had modeled that. Jesus had taught them that. Jesus had left them that gift of a table where all were welcome, no matter how broken or messy or how empty they were, all were welcome to that table to remember, to be remembered, to join together and to give thanks for all, even the painful pieces. So this is an important part of who we are as followers of Jesus, to remember and to give thanks, Eucharisteo. Why is that important? Well, remembering and giving thanks is that core of Christ faith. Because remembering is what helps us to be able to trust in Christ. Remembering helps bring us back together, no matter the arguments that we're having, no matter the disagreements that we have, no matter the spaces that we are judging one another. It helps us to have a common space to come back, to be put back together, to give thanks for who we are as a faith community and give thanks for who we are as individuals. This giving thanks is what puts us back together in that hurried, broken, fragmented world that we live in. And so we come to the table and we are a people of communion, a people of the Eucharisteo, a people who are there to remember God's gift of grace and to give thanks. And we're a people who know that we are a broken mess and that we need to be put back together, but we can only be put back together with God's grace. We can only be put back together individually, and we can only be put back together as a faith community through God's gift of grace and love that is extended to each of us. Now, this is a table that we have for all. As United Methodists, it is a table that is set before us for all of us. So do you feel welcome? Do you feel welcome at this table? Do you feel welcome to come in your messiness and your brokenness and the emptiness that you have? Do you feel welcome to come just as you are, knowing that God's grace will meet you in this space? As we are a people of communion, let us be reminded that it means that all of us are welcome to this table, but also let us remember that we are all sent out then to go and to be that communion in the world, to be able to take that gift, that Eucharisteo of gift of thanksgiving that God has given to us, and to take it out into the world and to remind people that they too are welcome. They're welcome at this table of messiness and brokenness because we all are messy and broken. There's a story from a former missionary, and he tells it about these two rugged, powerful mountain goats who he met on this narrow pathway that were joining these two mountain ridges. On one side, there was this chasm that was about 1,000 feet deep. And on the other was this steep cliff that was rising straight up. So the trail was really narrow. There was no room to turn around. And what he saw before him were these two goats that who were not backing away from each other. And they couldn't back up without falling. So what would they do? Would they fight to try to get past one another for the right to pass? What he witnessed was one of the goats kneeling down and making himself as flat as possible. And then the other goat then walked over him so that they both could go on their journey safely. When we make space for one another, when we realize that we're in this together, when we are able to help each other out, even to humble ourselves and let the other one pass, we are able to be a people of communion in the world. A people that recognizes that we all are a broken mess, that recognizes that a lot of times we feel empty and there's nothing left to give, but also recognize that God has placed gifts inside of each of us and work for us to do. So let us truly be the people of communion. Let us truly be the people of Christ.